Hello, I'm David with Agricultural Economic Insights, joining you for another edition of the Chart of the Week. And this week, I'm actually sharing two charts. These two charts I've been sharing on one slide a lot over the last 4 or 5 months as we've been working with producers and agribusinesses to help them think about and summarize where we are in the farm economy. And there's a bit of a head scratch when you look at the USDA's 2025 estimate of $180 billion in net farm income. That's well above the 107 billion in inflation adjusted average that we would use as a baseline. Some of that's from the 32 billion in ad hoc spending that we've seen authorized at the end of 2024, paid in 2025. But the other piece is hard to summarize, hard to capture, is what we're calling the split screen between plows and pastures, row crops versus livestock. There's a big difference going on in the farm economy. So I want to set that up and summarize that here for you. And the first piece that I think is worth emphasizing or looking at is net cash farm income. This is the average for farms who are focused in these different commodities. So this is a primarily corn operation versus a primary soybean operation. So it's the national average. But I want to point out here is that these data go back to 2010. The baseline, or where we get the index anchored to 100, is that average between 2017 and 2024. So there's some lows and some highs in there. But what I want to point out here is that in general, there's been a downward trend in net cash farm income over the last 4 or 5 years. We also see that most crops are at, or all these crops that we have here are either at or well below that baseline period. And the third piece here to really focus on is look at corn and soybeans. Corn and soybean values are at the lowest that we've seen over the last 15 years. So not only is it below the baseline period, 2017 to 2024 average, it's also the lowest observation. So crop corn and soybean producers, crop producers on the whole are having a difficult year, but corn and soybean producers are having an especially difficult period. And you can see that 24 and 25 are back to back hits. We'll see how this unfolds in the rest of the year. Yields and commodity prices will be a big driver, but it's been a particularly tough situation for those producers and historically significant. The last piece here, the other chart here I want to show you is the same data for livestock producers. And this is a different story. We see it's a different story in a lot of different ways. One, we see the trend for all of these has been up over the last few years. Most of the sectors, hogs are the exception. Most of the sectors are at or above that 100, that baseline era. Hogs have seen some improvement, but they are below the baseline average. I think the other piece to recognize here is that cattle and calves are having another great year. So 24 was exceptional, 25 is exceptional. Not as good as they were back in 2014, but again, historically high here for that sector. And take a look at dairy. Dairy's having its best year in the last 15 is what the initial projections are. Again, things can and likely will change from here, but I want to provide a little context as to how we should think about the farm economy. We've seen if you look at this geographically, we see that the Great Plains are scheduled to have a pretty good year, whereas the Corn Belt, especially the Eastern Corn Belt, aren't having nearly as good of a year here. So, how do we summarize the farm economy in 2025 is really difficult. I think we have to use a lot of different data. We have to make sure we're getting a full picture here. There's a lot of asterisks that go along with this 2025 story. It's a story of ad hoc government payments. It's a story of a split screen between a row crop sector and really a corn and soybean sector that's definitely struggling and a livestock sector that's much stronger. So that's all we have for this time. Encourage you to read the full article down the link down below. If you're not already an AEI Premium subscriber, I encourage you to check that out here as you read this article. But until next time, stay curious.